Welcome to Chat with Leaders. Our mission is to give resilient servant leaders a platform for sharing the inspiring things they're doing to lead their teams, communities, and themselves wisely. I'm today's host, Jeff Bond with AppBerry, where we build custom web and mobile apps. And I'm incredibly proud to welcome Stephanie Mitchell. She is a corporate wellness provider, keynote speaker, and founder of the Rollin Mat, which provides virtual and on-premise corporate wellness programs to companies like AT&T, Whole Foods, Terrapin Tap Room, and more. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's just such a gift, and I appreciate you carving out some time. You were on, it was kind of like a networking event that we did virtually, and you were talking about the importance of self-care and health. And I think it's so important that if leaders are going to lead effectively, they have to be able to take care of themselves, both emotionally, physically, mentally. And that's a big part of what you do. So I'm so thrilled to have you on the show to talk about that topic. And this is a show that's intended to talk about current struggles and what leaders are doing to forge ahead faithfully, particularly as we're in 2020 and it's such a crazy year with lots of things. So thanks for allowing us to pick your brains. So the first question I had, Stephanie, was around self-care. You talked to me about the importance of that in order for leaders to be able to effectively lead those that are in their care that they lead. So can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
It's so important to always fine tune because as leaders, it's very important that we're able to show up for our audience, for our clients, for our students in an effective way. And one of the things, especially right now, one of the top qualities of a good leader is the ability to listen well. And that includes not only listening to your clients and the people that you work with, but also listening to yourself and understanding what kind of self-talk you are fueling yourself with and what kind of energy level you are bringing to the table. And that also goes into listening to your body as well, understanding that when your body's telling you you need a break, and you need to listen to that. So just as yoga starts with listening and being aware, that is also a duty of a leader to listen and be aware, not only to who they serve, but also who they are and themselves.
I love that. And one of the things in your networking talk that you talked about was breathing and focusing on your breathing. I've really been focused on that ever since, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, like taking long breaths and really getting more in touch with my breath. I feel like sometimes I hold that all day long and I don't even realize that. Is there any other like little things that people can be doing to physically take care of themselves while they're working remotely?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the breath is so important, and I have a lot of different breath techniques that I provide my corporate clients. But I think really just making sure that you carve out time in your day to move. And it doesn't have to be, people think that they've got to do something really strenuous or they've got to run forever or even walk. And being that my audience is corporate and maybe don't have a lot of space or they don't have a lot of time to actually take that break, stand up and really use the breath technique that you learned from that virtual workshop that I did, and ground your feet, feel your feet, become aware of your body and the points where you're holding tension and the points where maybe you're able to release a little bit. Standing and then forward fold also, because folds are great for the low back, and they also redirect the blood flow. So when you think you're sitting at your desk, you're sitting upright, blood's getting stuck, right? The blood flow is you're not at your optimum circulation at that point. So redirecting the blood flow actually encourages a little bit more of mental power, if you will, just like the breath does. Oxygenating the brain and getting sufficient blood source to the brain is very effective.
Those are phenomenal tips. Tell me, Stephanie, about how you built your business. We talked about community leadership, being presence in the community, being a servant in the community. So being active in that way. So for leaders that are looking for positive ways to grow their business, share with us a little bit more about that story of how the community involvement has impacted you
Mm.
positively.
Yeah, the community involvement has really been one of the main reasons why I am where I am. My community, getting out there and speaking what I do. So that's probably my biggest tip to people that are entrepreneurs, are leaders, are starting a business. Speak it, tell people about it. Generate that curiosity. So my community events, I mean, that's where I started. I actually worked in a brewery when I was getting trained, and I just kicked off. I thought, bring the community together, meet people, tell people what I'm doing, and put on my own what we call beer yoga events, where you do yoga and you get a beer at the end, for those that want one. And they took off, and that's where I really was able to practice my elevator pitch and what I do and who I serve. And through that, my audience, they're 9 to 5ers. They have a 9 to 5 job, and they're just coming out to my event for this one day. And through that is where I found many of the companies that I'm currently working with, um, just by being present, by showing up as a leader. Because that's another thing, as a leader, you have to show up.
Absolutely, and be visible in the community, and it's so much easier to connect the dots on like how to introduce people to other people in your community when you really get to know them and experience being with them. And so as I'm talking to you now, I'm thinking, okay, my brother-in-law works in a brewery as a chief operating officer, and wow, I can't wait to share this episode with them, because maybe that's something that could value they could benefit from if they knew
Absolutely.
about you. So yeah, that connection to people, that's certainly important. You also
Mm-hmm.
talked to me about the importance of selfless service and owning your worth while you're in the community and you're building your business. So given the challenging economy that we're in right now, I think many companies are evaluating their target audience, their pricing structures. Should I drop the price? Should I change, pivot my business? But you talked about owning your worth. So can you share
Mm-hmm.
with me a little bit more about that concept and how people should be thinking about delivering their product or service, and why that's so important?
Yeah, well, it all kind of goes full circle back around to the awareness of self, and really tapping into your value, sitting in your value, visualize your value. You know, I think a lot of it is, and with the yoga teachers that I do mentor, it's hard for them to get past just offering yoga classes, to corporations. But there's so much more to be offered, so I'm not as big of an advocate of dropping price. I would rather add value, in order for my price to make sense. And that, was a bit of a challenge given the current time. I was able to successfully move my corporate clients to my online platform. And with that online platform, I was able to load it with value because I'm not going anywhere now, right? So the drive time is cut, the expense of gas is cut, I'm not using my equipment. So in that way, I was able to be of service to them and be reasonable with that. But at the same time, because I'm able to work remotely, I'm able to maybe teach a couple more classes or do a couple more workshops than I normally would. So I value stacked is what I call it. And that's what I push my mentees to do as well, is stack your value. Think about everything that you're good at. Sit in your strengths and add that to your business. Add that to your content, to your offer, instead of pulling the price down. You got to own your worth.
Yeah, plus, your customers are getting so much more out of that relationship and doing business with you. If you drop your price, there's no emotional value to what you're doing. You're doing the same service for less. And while that's appreciated, I'm sure in the near term, in the long term, the emotional connection to the value received, it has not increased, has not
Mhm.
changed whatsoever. So really powerful stuff, and also just being confident enough to know that you have additional value to add,
Mhm.
and finding those opportunities to add
Yeah.
value to your customers. So really well
And
said.
it's much easier to pitch high. And then if they really need help financially, then talk it down a little bit. Because once you lower your rates and you try to go back up and raise your rates again, it's going to be really hard for
Right.
your customer. It's going to be a blow to them.
Yeah, that's a great point. And really it's stewardship. I mean, we all have our businesses to run that impact, our families and our employees. If we have, employees and direct reports that impact our abilities to gain in our gifts of time and treasure to be able to give back to the community and use those resources for good. So it's not insensitive to want to make money in a for-profit society. I mean, we have to do that. And so we have to be confident that what we're charging for is giving the value that our customers deserve, and that we're serving them and
Mhm.
stewarding that relationship and their budget well. So those are all points that are important for people to be considering as they're kind of a little bit worried about the economy right now and the impact that it's maybe had on
Yeah.
their business. We'll make it through this together. We
Mhm.
talked a little bit about what leaders and individuals can be doing for themselves to take care, and you provided some great tips as to how to do that. But for leaders that do have the responsibility of a team and employees, what advice would you have for them to be able to coach on a regular basis how to ensure their health and well-being for themselves and the people they lead?
Right. So, again, it goes back to that check-in with self, understanding where you are, understanding your position, and taking listening from not just listening to what your body's telling you, but listening to what your employees are saying, listening to what their woes are, to what their challenges are right now, and providing service, you know, um, through my platform, or if they're seeking something else, someone hiring an expert to come in and assist them with whatever the issues that they're having, or celebrate with them if they're telling you good things. I think just like positive reinforcement as well, that especially right now that they're doing a good job, and positive reinforcement for yourself. It's like when that mirror talk, because if the way that you're communicating with yourself is negative self-talk, and you're feeling like as a leader you're not helping in any way, or you're just kind of having like a lull in your own self, then that's going to reflect in how you communicate with your people, with your employees, with your clients. So it definitely starts with the leader itself, but then it also spreads out to like the leader listening, opening your ears and actually listening to what they want, and then speak to those pain points.
Love it. Love it. What would be one call to action that you would convey to leaders right now as they forge it faithfully in 2020? If there was one thing to focus on from your perspective, what would that be?
I would definitely focus on, this is a time to emerge. And we've been given though the pandemic is not positive, and what's going on in other areas is not positive necessarily, we've also been given a unique opportunity to take a step back, focus in on who we are, what we want, what our goals are, what our mission is. Get caught up in your mission. Stay caught up in your mission. Try not to get so caught up in all of the stuff going on. Just get caught up in your path, in your direction, and just use this as an opportunity to really emerge as the best leader possible for your people and for your clients.
Just got chills. Great, great, great advice. Love it. How would people get a hold of you, Stephanie, and learn more about your business and what you have to offer?
Right. Well, I do have a website. It's called therollingmatadventure.com. So that's a good way to, and I have a whole page on my corporate wellness. So you can find out a little bit more about the benefits of bringing it into your company, and also schedule a connection call with me as well. And then you can also find me on Facebook, The Rolling Mat, and I'm also on Instagram at Rollin with no G Yogi.
Great. Well, we'll be posting the episode and show notes to our website, chatwithleaders.com, as well as sharing through YouTube and all our social media accounts at Chat with Leaders on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Such a good conversation today, Stephanie. I really do appreciate your gift of time, your experience, and sharing that with others.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad I was able to get the word out.
My pleasure.